Lil Uzi Vert Pink Tape album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Lil Uzi Vert. This is a big review. This album's been in the works for quite some time, and if you don't know, Lil Uzi Vert, Philly-based rapper, they've been at it for quite some time. And in the early days of Uzi stuff, you know, the mixtape era with, you know, Lil Uzi Vert versus the World, the Perfect Love tape. Love Is Rage as well. I mean, these tapes are fine. They're certainly not that bad. I did enjoy the personality on display, the colorful beats that Uzi usually hopped on. I thought it was all pretty okay. Nothing too crazy, though. Like, I wasn't returning to them time and time and time again, which is why when Lil Uzi Vert finally, you know, dropped Love Is Rage 2, the full-length debut, you know, I honestly just kind of let it pass me by at the time. And it's a shame because, you know, I still kind of like the album. Is it perfect? No. Is it game-changing? Absolutely not. But it is also really colorful, incredibly catchy, and surprisingly vulnerable at times. Now, the last time we heard from Uzi was in 2020 with Eternal Take, and this album was absolutely massive and showed Uzi taking quite a lot of risks. And my thoughts on these said risks could not have been more split. I mean, there's certainly some bangers on this album, and when this album is in a good groove, I would make the argument that it's some of the better pop rap out there today. My only issue is just how cluttered this album is. When this album got bad, I could not help but genuinely laugh out loud with just how cheesy it got. It's a mixed bag of an album. For sure. I much prefer the debut. Now, leading up to this album, Uzi has promised us a lot of things. It's certainly leaning more in the rock direction, which we got a taste of with the Let It Rock single, which I wasn't that big of a fan of, but this is a big review. And let's dive in because, my God, this album has taken a lot out of me. Now, this album is by far Uzi's longest project. It's his most sprawling project and his most experimental project. We are going to get to all that and more, but we're going to start with some good because, you know what? I'm just going to say, there's some genuinely just great rap tunes on here. Like Flooded the Face, which starts off this album. I can turn up to this. I really do love the beat here. It's a hazy, spacey banger with a trippy beat, and Uzi sounds like right on top form. It sounds like a call to action, a real way to get you pumped up for this album. It's gritty, it's a little dark, it's catchy when it needs to be, it's a great intro. Crush 'Em is a surprisingly dark and gritty turn for the album. I wish we got more tracks like this. And you know what? It may not be for everyone because Uzi did not go to songwriting school. Let's be clear on that. But I'm digging this. This is a very grisly, hypnotic tune with Uzi sounding genuinely dangerous. For an amped up vibe of a tune, look no further. X2 might just be the best deep cut here. I really do love this track's fluttering beat. These synths just don't sit still, and Uzi's verse on this track is super braggadocious, and he sounds right at home doing it. When this album is on and it's in Uzi's good graces, I think the best thing about it is it just sounds like it's not too big of a stretch for Uzi's sound. It sounds natural, and this is a great track. You can argue that Fiya is a little bit Uzi by the books, and you'd be completely right. I mean, in every way, between the flashy beat and the one-liners, this is exactly where I thought this album would be headed. And it's not bad. It's a banger. It gets me amped. The personality is here. It's colorful. The production is booming. And Mama, I'm Sorry, for a more emotional moment, look no further. And yes, Uzi is definitely in interpolation mode, no thanks to this very heavy Gautier sample that we get on this track, but it does work to his advantage, because this track is emotional and tender, and honestly, his singing comes off pretty solid. I mean, this track could have been an absolute disaster, but it ends up becoming just intoxicating. And at first, Pluto to Mars, I was actually pretty critical of this track, but truthfully, it's not that bad. I mean, is this the poppiest pop rap here? Absolutely. But this is a shining example of what Uzi brings to the table and how fresh he can make the genre sound. And once again, lyrical masterpiece this track is not, but it's overall really enjoyable. His heart isn't it, and his singing isn't bad either. Now, leading up to this album, we were promised that this would be more of a rock direction album, which if you've listened to some Uzi interviews, that's not going to be too shocking. I mean, they were very influenced by the work of like Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. And Suicide Doors, one of the earliest rock offerings we get here, it's actually pretty great. I mean, this riff is literally unique as absolutely nothing, but hearing Uzi hyped up on this riff is actually really exciting. It's explosive, it's got the personality, it's pretty off the rails, it's wild. When it comes to amped, I mean, the wailing guitar over this beat, it's really freaking catchy and works better than it has any right to. Add in some usual ad-libs from Uzi and like, this really should not work. But it does. It seems like, once again, a solid reach for Uzi. It sounds like his usual antics, with just a little more guitar. And trust me, there is a dark side to this sound, and we will get to it. But for now, I'm actually having fun. God, the Nakamura track. My thoughts have changed on this so many times since, I first listened to this album like a week ago. The fact that this track made the cut. Wow. It is cheesy and borderline ridiculous, but I don't know if this is the lifelong wrestling fan in me, but hearing Lil Uzi Vert over Shinsuke Nakamura's theme song, it's actually pretty awesome, and his performance is really heartfelt. No matter how cheesy this track gets, Uzi sounds really passionate. His verses are fired up. I mean, God, the production's solid. His singing is average on this track, but the heart is definitely there. Not only that, but it's one of the few moments on this album where I look at Uzi and I say, you know what, they're having fun. And Fire Alarm, quote me on it, this is the best track here. This track is batshit insane. This is wild. This beat is easily the noisiest thing on this entire album. It almost sounds like a Death Grip sample at times. The booming beat, the sirens, Uzi's wild-eyed performance, this track is crazy. I mean, it's moments like this that make me think, God, hearing this at a festival or a live setting is gonna be ridiculous. And Werewolf featuring Bring Me the Horizon. Once again, my thoughts on this track have changed multiple times since this album dropped. I mean, let's just not even sugarcoat it. This is easily the most hardcore thing on this entire album. And you may argue about its authenticity, but you know what? I actually like it. It amps me up. The production is great. And Bring Me the Horizon, who I've never been the biggest fan of. I mean, I've liked projects here and there, but I'm not like craving for more. Bring Me the Horizon. Honestly, they bring more to the table than 90% of the guests on this album. We're gonna get there. I mean, so far this album's been a lot of fun to chat about, but the thing is, this is an album that is all about one thing, and that is excess. This thing just has so many tracks. It's trying to do so many things. It's been nearly impossible for me to rate this album, especially when it comes to some of the rap tunes on this thing. There's some rough moments that you gotta sit through on this thing. Like A featuring Travis Scott. Guys, what the hell happened here? This was the track that I wanted to hear the most. And honestly, it doesn't even come close to expectations. This beat is some of the most dime a dozen trap that I've heard all year. Uzi sounds like he's trying way too hard, and Travis's performance, it's barely felt. Died and came back. I mean, from a distance, this track's actually impressive. I do actually still really like the very glamorous beat that we get here. The icy production as well. But Uzi is not on top form here. I mean, we're going to hear much better emotional tracks later on in this album, but they've wrote plenty of them in the past. They really have. I mean, EXO Tour Life. This is so cheesy, though, and so overly sappy, and Uzi, these freaking one-liners, you know better. Come on. And then we have Spin Again, which on an album that's as bloated and crammed in as this, you're telling me this minute and 38-second toss-away track absolutely had to make it. It's the most inconsequential track here. Nothing happened. Then we have I Gotta, which sticks out like a freaking sore thumb. This beat and this production is the most outdated thing on this entire album. I am shocked. And Uzi doesn't do much to bring it up to date either. I mean, in an album that is dripping with excess, this did not need to be here. And then we have Endless Fashion featuring Nicki Minaj, and I don't know what is going on. In the last few years, did we really need another interpolation of Eiffel 65's Blue? No, we did not. I will give Uzi credit, though, that hook, while a blatant ripoff, is actually really catchy. But what happened to the rest of this track? These two have no chemistry whatsoever, and neither one of them even came close to bringing their A game. It's not a banger at all. This instrumental is putting me to sleep, and Nicki just sounds like she phoned it in so hard. How is this album just such a mixed bag once again? And All Alone just feels like deja vu in the absolute worst way. I feel like we've been here before so many times. I feel like Uzi has wrote this song so many times. I couldn't tell you the first thing about this track. Uzi singing, he's a lot better than this. This sounds like something from Uzi's first few mixtapes that people just forgot about. And let me tell you, some of the later rock tracks that we get on this album do not go over nearly as well as some of the fun ones that we got in the first half, like Just Wanna Rock. My thoughts have not changed on this track. The fact that this was the main teaser for the album is perplexing to me. I mean, this track does almost nothing for this album. This isn't a teaser. This is a track that very, very subtly, pokes, maybe a couple of guitar licks here and there, saying that this album's going to be a little bit more rock oriented, which it is, but trust me, this should not have been the one teaser, because this track isn't very good. And wow. The cover of the System of a Down classic Chop Suey. I cannot believe that this made the cut. I cannot believe it. I am convinced that Uzi was just out at karaoke and somebody was just like, hey, we should record this. It is not good. It's one of the worst covers I've heard in a really, really long time. The best thing about this track is when Uzi shuts up in the last minute. This album is all over the freaking place, and the final 4 tracks, the conclusion, are just as all over the place. We have Confession featuring Don Toliver, and you know what? It's actually one of the best tracks here. This is a mega downtrodden, very emotional banger. And listen, if you're not into hearing Uzi at his most sad boy, this track might not be for you. But it comes off commendably heartfelt. His songwriting on this track is very revealing. And let me tell you, Don Toliver actually adds a lot to the hook as well. And Days Come and Go, you know what? Good on you, Uzi. This is a triumphant and very glitzy banger of a tune late in the album that once again has Uzi showing their heart on their sleeve. And it's freaking commendable. The song hook is really great too, and I love the sunny atmosphere with just how emotional this track is. It's a great track, Uzi. Let's just tone this album down next time, shall we? By the time we hit Rehab, I am shocked that Uzi is taking the time now to add some structure to this album in the last 4 tracks. And this track, Rehab, I have mixed thoughts on it. On one hand, Uzi's songwriting, some of the most commendable on this entire album. I mean, this track cuts so freaking deep. But instrumental-wise and production-wise, it's really not very good. And neither is The End featuring Baby Metal. Oh, this track is a fucking mess. This is Uzi just wanting to go out with a bang, one last blast of energy. But there isn't a cohesive thought here. This isn't wrapping anything up. This is Uzi grabbing Baby Metal to put some energy into the finale of this album, but it's wasted. I commend the enthusiasm, but this album is far from a statement. I mean, God, what can I even say about this album? This is the definition of excess. This is Uzi, wanting to go in a more rock direction, but not wanting to give up completely on his, pop rap skills, and it's a mixed bag. It's a very mixed bag. Almost as much of a mixed bag as their last album that came out a few years ago, but this is like that turned up to 10 because the highs are so high, but the lows are so incredibly low and cringeworthy. For every great amped up banger or a rap tune over a wild riff, there is some cheesy wordplay, there's some bad production. God, the features on this album, when Bring Me the Horizon and Don Toliver are doing better stuff than Travis Scott and Nicki Minaj on this album, we are in some weird territory, my friends. I'm perplexed by this album. The highs are incredibly high, the lows are incredibly low. I'm feeling a decent 5 on this album for now, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.